Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The author narrates his story. He has two fathers. The first was his biological father, the poor dad, and the other was the father of his childhood best friend, Mike, the rich dad. Both fathers taught the author how to achieve success, but with very different approaches. Throughout the book, the author compares both fathers, their principles, ideas, financial practices, and degree of dynamism, and how his real father, the poor and struggling but highly educated man, paled against his rich dad in terms of asset building and business acumen. The author compares his poor father to those people who are always running in the rat race. They are helpless in a vicious circle where they need more but are never able to fulfill their dreams of wealth because of their lack of financial knowledge. They spend so much time in school learning about the problems of the world, but have not acquired any valuable lessons about money simply because it is never taught in school. Whereas his rich dad represents the wealthy core of society. Their knowledge of taxation and accounting, or that of their financial advisors, helps them in making the most of their business. The author presents 6 major lessons, which he discusses throughout the book. The rich don't work for money. The importance of financial literacy, minding your own business, taxes and corporations. The rich invent money. The need to work to learn and not to work for money. Rich Dad versus Poor Dad. Chapter 1. Kiyosaki's rich dad was a successful business owner, one of the wealthiest in Hawaii, with only an 8th grade education. His poor dad held a PhD in education, and like many educated people working jobs to pay the bills, still struggled with debt and money his entire career. Kiyosaki mentions, "I noticed that my poor dad was poor, not because of the amount of money he earned, which was significant, but because of his thoughts and actions." When the author complains to Rich Dad that he can hardly afford to buy anything with the wages he is paid, Rich Dad told him to ask, "How can I make more money?" because this stimulates the brain to take action. His rich dad says that when someone says, "I can't afford it," his brain stops working. It therefore kills initiative and promotes passivity. The Rich Don't Work for Money, Chapter 2. The poor and middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them. The author says that the rich people don't work for money. They invest their money into assets like real estate, bonds, stocks, and companies, etc., which generate income for them without them having to work. They use their money to make more money, while the poor and the middle class work for money and hence are always stuck in the rat race to get more pay and job security. They are governed by their emotions of fear and greed. The fear of losing their jobs gets them into the rat race, and the greed to buy more and more things keeps them running in the rat race. If you work for money, you give power to your employer. If money works for you, you keep the power and control it. Why teach financial literacy? Chapter 3. Intelligence solves problems and produces money. Money without financial intelligence is money soon gone. The author says that on the road to become financially independent, it does not matter how much money you make. What matters is how much money you keep. Robert says that a person can be highly educated, professionally successful, and yet be financially illiterate. The fundamentals of financial literacy is captured in just one rule: understand the difference between an asset and a liability. Mind your own business. Chapter 4. An important distinction is that rich people buy luxuries last, while poor and middle class tend to buy the luxuries first. The author introduces the concept of real estate investing and uses McDonald's as an example. He points out that McDonald's may not make the best hamburgers in the world, but owns the most valuable intersections and streets in America. The author remarks that individuals need to mind their own business if they wish to become financially self-sufficient. They shouldn't mind their employer's business. They should strive for ways to become their own boss and nurture their own businesses. He advises people to cut down on their expenses, stay away from liabilities, and keep working on growing your assets column. The author continues his discussion on building assets. To him, real assets are anything with value: stocks, bonds, mutual funds, income-producing real estate, notes, royalties from intellectual property, etc. The History of Taxes and the Power of Corporations, Chapter 5. My rich dad just played the game smart, and he did it through corporations. The biggest secret of the rich. Taxes originated in England and America temporarily to pay for wars. Initially, it was only the rich who were asked to pay taxes, which was later extended to the poor and the middle class. But the rich played it smartly. They used the power of the corporation to protect and enhance their assets. The advantage of a corporation versus that of the individual lies in how corporations pay taxes. Business owners with corporations earn, spend, pay taxes. Employees who work for corporations earn, pay taxes, spend. Corporations, therefore, hold a certain degree of power. The rich know how to use this power, the poor don't. Robert says that a person's financial IQ is made up of knowledge from 4 broad areas of expertise. Understanding what accounting all is about, understanding the science of making money or investing, understanding the demand and supply aspects of the financial markets, understanding the law. An asset puts money into your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. The rich buy assets. The poor have expenses. And the middle class buys liabilities, thinking they are assets. The rich invent money. Chapter 6. The author says that each person is born with talent, but that talent is suppressed because of self-doubt and fear. He remarks that it's not necessarily the educated smart people who get ahead, but the bold and adventurous. People never get ahead financially, even if they have plenty of money, because they have opportunities that they fail to tap, he stresses. Most of them just sit around waiting for opportunity to happen. The author's idea is that people create luck. They should not wait around for it. He says it's the same with money. It has to be created. Try developing the skills to find an opportunity that everyone else missed. Raise money. Know how to raise capital outside of a bank. Organize smart people. Hire people more intelligent than you. Work to learn. Don't work for money. Chapter 7. Job security meant everything to my educated dad. Learning meant everything to my rich dad. One should know a little about a lot, rather than a lot about little. The author gives an example of a young woman who had a master's degree in English literature and had authored a book. But it had no sales, so the author recommended her to learn to sell and do direct marketing. But she got offended on the suggestion. The author uses this example to emphasize that there are other skills people need to cultivate to help them on the road towards financial freedom. The author mentions management skills. He says individuals need to know how to manage cash flow, systems, and people, and should develop marketing skills. He puts equal emphasis on communication skills. He says there are many people who have the scientific bent and hence have a powerhouse of knowledge, but they fail miserably in communications. These are the people who are one skill away from great wealth.